Hello, and I am so pleased today to have Mickael El Fathi with us, who is the illustrator of Peace and Me and Science and Me from Lantana Publishing. Welcome so much being here. We're so glad you're
Thank
here.
You, I'm very glad to be here.
And your work is just so stunning. Peace and Me was an outstanding international book of the year, so people know that one. The new one coming out is Science and Me, and I think you've got a copy behind you, kind of like in front of that incredible artwork.
It's here. Well.
Yes, and it is beautiful. It's beautiful. And these are books about the Nobel Prize laureates. So can you tell me a little bit about how this project came to you, how you learned about it?
Well, first, Alice.
Alice Curry.
Just here. Yeah, but here is Ali Winter. She told me about this this project a few years ago because she had seen some of my my works. I have made an illustration book entitled Lorient, Le Voyage de Lorient, which means Lorient's journey, you know, the journey of Lorient. And I had already made some work with different patterns. And she was excited about working with me, and I was very happy to work about peace and empathy on this first project. So I was very excited to work on the second one, Science and Me, and actually it enables me to learn many things. Which is something I like with my job. I always have to learn things. So this is how these projects started.
Well, it is just incredible, and the wealth of detail in every one of these illustrations. I should explain that each spread is a different is focused on a different Nobel laureate.
Yeah, and I can show it properly.
Yeah. I think my favorite is the Irene Joliot-Curie with her wonderful detail of her dress with the periodic table of the elements on her dress, which is just so incredible. So can you tell me about your research you did for these books and how you decided to use all the wonderful facts you found? And I'm sure there were things that didn't make the cut, but because I mean, how hard it'd be to choose what to reflect there. So tell us a little bit about that process.
Well, first I have a huge patterns library because I really love, it can be ceramics, it can be fabrics, it can be carpets, it can be everything. So I have a lot of pictures like this, and sometimes I use them to create illustrations, which means I take a picture and I just draw or cut a shape inside this. The thing is how to find the good one and how to find a nice harmony between a nice balance between all those patterns. So for Marie Curie and Irene Joliot-Curie's spread, I decided to use newspapers from the war, and it was actually quite funny to do this, and I really enjoyed doing this. And I also use, and it's going to be hard to find the proper word in English. You know, in chemical board, how do you call this?
Well, the periodic table of the elements.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I use this to make the dress, for example, and I use everything I found about war, about army, and yeah, in different languages. So in order to have something, a general atmosphere, of war.
Oh wow! And so much to discover in those illustrations. I feel like you could really spend hours on just one spread. The words, of course, are amazing and powerful and give you so much information, but just the two together just make it such an incredible experience. So tell me a little bit about, as you were doing these illustrations, if there were things you discovered that you thought, oh, I can't wait to use this, and or some favorite hidden detail that you can clue us in on.
Well, actually, usually I first read about, for example, here about Joliot-Curie and Marie Curie, of course. And I read a lot about all those people. I don't know if you can see. And when I have eaten a lot of food, you know, a lot of of information,
Sure.
then only then I start to make a drawing. And when I make the, after I made the drawing, then I try to find an interesting way of selecting patterns, because all the patterns depend on the character of the spread.
Right.
So I think a lot then. I spend much time thinking, then I spend much time choosing different, finding a lot of patterns, and after only I make my selection. There are a lot of patterns I really like for example, the cover. Don't know if you can see. The moon. The moon is like, it's not an Egyptian wall, but maybe even older than this. And it's a beautiful one. I don't know the name for this bas-relief. It's when you have a sculpture, but it's almost...
Oh, bas-relief. Bas-relief. Yeah, okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
It's the same
yeah,
word.
yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I use this for the moon, and
it's that rough.
Yeah.
It's that rough texture that you get when, okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
Exactly, yeah. So for each spread, I try to find the link, the interesting thing. I don't know about, for example, this one. I just opened this one. No, it's the one of Dorothy Crowfoot-Hodgkin, and she worked on DNA, for example. So I had to make a lot of researches about DNA, and I used cells, actually, pictures. Made taken with a microscope. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So pictures of cells, and I just, you know, cut inside some shapes and afterward. But the thing is, how to find this ID, and each time I really have to think a lot. So what am I going to do with this spread? And that's the part I love most, actually. Think.
Yes, it's when you're preparing to plunge into creating it and deciding what elements are going to be there. Yeah, that must be so challenging and rewarding. That's amazing that you use actual photographs of cells. And I loved your rope bridge of the DNA strands. It's just brilliant. It's just so brilliant. Well, that is incredible. And your background, you live in France now.
Yeah, I live in the southwest of France.
Yeah.
Next to the ocean and the mountains.
Oh, wow. So have you lived in France all your life? Is that?
No, I lived in Morocco because I'm half French and half Moroccan. And I've lived 1 year in New Zealand.
Oh, love New Zealand too. Yes, that's amazing. Country. I love how Lantana does what I think of as kind of fusion publishing. The author and the illustrator may be from totally different backgrounds, and they come together to create these beautiful works that are so rich in both cultures of the creators. And it's just incredible. And I think the Peace in Me and Science in Me is just the very top of their game for sure, which is a pretty amazing game to begin with. So Peace in Me, you said that peace really resonated with you for obvious reasons. Who doesn't like peace? And if you don't like peace, I don't think I want to know you. But But also, was there something about science, about the science, the subjects of the book and the science book that really appealed to you or interested you, or are there things that you just were eager to discover in doing your research?
A lot. Actually, I didn't really like science at school, you know, but since I have finished my degrees, I loved it.
Oh.
I really loved it. And I read a lot of scientific books. So I was very happy to work on certain of those spread, like, for example, Sean Hasekar works on the black holes. I've read a lot of about black holes, and I discovered so many things. Even just I don't know if it's the first, no, the second one with the Titanic.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's very interesting, actually.
Yeah, of course.
It's like the ancestor of cell phone, What, and so yeah, I had to read a lot for this book, especially for this book, because some of them are not very very famous.
You too. That was one I discovered there, and from China, and just from 2015. I love how this is such a global book. So yeah.
Yeah, actually, when we did Peace and Me, a lot of the characters in Peace and Me are quite famous. But in this one, Science and Me, you discover a lot.
Oh yeah, I mean, there are some of the obvious suspects, Marie and Irene Joliot-Curie, but also Albert Einstein's in there, but and Alexander Fleming. But there are also so many people that will be true discoveries for the readers, which is awesome. And before I let you go, I just have to point out the amazing artwork behind you. It is, and I can see the patterns in there, and patterns are your thing. So how did you get interested in patterns and making that kind of your way of expressing your art?
Actually, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, sure. How did you become interested in patterns, and how did you be together? And how did you just, seems to be a major way you create art.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of arrive at that? That's a big question, and I just sprung that on you, so I'm sorry. But
actually, it started with a book, a children's book. One of my first book. It's the name is L'eau de Laia, and the action takes place in. We imagine it's in Morocco or Algeria, and I really didn't know how I was going to illustrate it. I made a lot of tests, but I was not satisfied. So once I saw a carpet, a Moroccan carpet, and I said, why would I try to make something as beautiful as this if I can just use this? So, but the thing is, when you start thinking like this, it's all about finding the good balance. You can't just take a carpet and it works. It doesn't, actually.
Right, yes.
So I started working on carpet, and now on my carpet library, I have something like thousands of them. I started going to carpet galleries. There is one in Paris. I went there, and I was really impressed, and especially by Berberian. Do you?
Yeah, Berber. Yeah.
But they have a very special way of creating carpets, and I was really astonished by this. So I thought, okay, if I can make an illustration with carpets, maybe I could try with ceramics, or I could try with other kind of patterns, and natural patterns. For example, right now I'm working on a project which action takes place in the old times, prehistoric times.
Yeah.
So I do illustration with rocky patterns.
Uh-huh.
See?
Rocky patterns, yes, with rocks and yeah.
And I draw on rocky patterns.
Oh, that's so cool.
So actually we can use any patterns.
Yeah. The inspiration can be anywhere, even beneath your feet, which is amazing. Well, Mickael El Fathi, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to talk with us today and to take us into the illustrations of Science and Me. Again, this is from Lantana Publishing, and we're just thrilled to get a chance to talk with you. So enjoy the rest of your evening, and thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you very much.